There is here one particular momentum that it will need to be clarified today. How far various people positioned well on various levels of this planetary functioning continue to promote some kind of negative translation of the concept of planetary unite level of governance, what we would most conveniently call Federation of Earth. Now, it is a bit suggesting to the Star Wars protocol, which I found equally in need to be confiscated, therefore. Because it does play with notions on the levels where entertainment industry should not be walking first. And in certain ways, it just take away the ground from serious political stages. When you make a movie on such subjects, you take away the stage from serious political protocol, and that is what is not good about that entire concept. Also, it is very much westernized, very much translated into some kind of Irish Republic, but then it is Federation of Earth. That is going into absurdity. But what I don't like in that entire event is that people continue to discuss any global protocol as very negative approach, and immediately are opposing where we are today, which is ongoing war and extreme conflicting positions of territories. They offer as alternative some kind of over-unified futuristic society where everything is going to be simplified, united, and depolarized or disintegrated. Nothing of that is what I'm talking about here in my work and with my Constitution of Earth, which starts where that I need to read in the following days, which starts very much defining the concept of human and the protocol of human, introducing here woman again, and the most important aspects of being human, which is family, kids, giving birth to a baby, nature, our beautiful nature, and our beautiful character actually of a human, which reflects in many ways this creativity and this positivity of this energy blast that deploy on the planet. Most of the work I deliver here is admiration about the planet and the concept and protocol life itself and human itself. And now all of a sudden someone is projecting this kind of dark, futuristic, utopian kind of society with complete dehumanization of human dimension. Who on earth speaks about that? Have you heard any serious political discussion on the planet delivered from such some kind of positions? Was anyone introducing planet as such? A part of these tribunal societies, especially aggregated on the Western side, that continue to be submitted to this kind of global idea and swallowed in a process because they cannot control the game, which they, at some historic point of time, maybe somehow triggered on certain levels. And maybe even existed some kind of natural unity at some earlier point of time, still existing in the memory of humanity. But here today we talk about 7 billion of population, which is properly classified and categorized in cultural settings that are very much based. It is very much based on geographical differences, climate differences, accomplished development, cultural development, any kind of development. We have such level of diversity where you need to manage the planet as when you're managing different kind of I'm not going to say department, but certainly different kind of individuals here. Nothing is here about taking over anything, but in contrary, allowing the most convenient conditions for development of the territories and cultures and people. I continue to be extremely annoyed by someone constantly throwing upon me this kind of dark scenarios, and then everyone get scared to talk about the planet. That is done wrongly, and that should stop. People should start accepting responsibility from promoting such some kind of utopian futuristic deploy, and like we have no any other option, and that they don't provide any other option. Well, they're criticizing something, they don't provide option. When you hear a person like that speaking, don't listen to a person. A person criticizes and does not immediately deliver its projection of better society, you are wasting time listening such people. And they are wasting their time living like that. As far as I'm concerned, I'm working on this already 10 years. I find myself reaching now much more some kind of advanced stages of deploying my work. I'm going to therefore here clarify that we need to start talking about this planet as one planet, and that it is pointless that we continue to think about conflicting positions on the planet, but rather to start thinking about how we are going to coordinate the territories on the planet within the protocol, one planet functioning properly as intelligent factor. It is here also that we have to be reminded that we live in 21st century, where almost entire population of the planet is solidly educated, have chances to be perfectly informed. It takes a couple of weeks, month, a year to be self-educated on various levels. It is absolutely unacceptable anymore that we talk about creation of armies, of national armies that are going to be prepared for some kind of future war between the nations. That is absurd. It is simply artificial. Simply does not land on this planet anymore as a matter of some kind of profound logic that someone is going to buy it and invest their life into it. I think we have overcome that. I think we have managed to fly above that. I think today you cannot buy any more humans that are going to believe in such stupid idea of confronting and fighting another nation and some other innocent young people. While on the top nothing gets changed, I doubt that anyone is going to accept to go and die for such stupid idea anymore. Let's get here realistic. It is that we rather talk about profiling now the planet in direction where we need to see our people, that is planetary people, the humanity engaged. And that is very much in service of promoting their territories and developing their territories. That is, rather than to create army, you should rather create farmers and agricultural industry. Instead to give weapons to these people, to these young soldiers, you should rather give them piece of land and family to grow and agricultural business to develop. And your country would be having much more of future in the promise than what you're doing at the moment. So we have to start, therefore, building the planet and restructuring the planet in direction of very positive perspective to life, investing, therefore, our complete mental orientation in completely different direction that is away from conflict and war and in direction of promoting and delivering life on the planet. In that context, I would advise that you invest your money into engaging your young people into agricultural and any other kind of entrepreneurship that you need in order to revive the economy of your territories. Where then also we need various activities, infrastructural developing activities, rather than to everyone to wait on China to deliver to them. Why on earth you need to wait on China to build you railway road, railway stations? Can't you just do it yourself? Would you not have exactly same amount of effort and time and human factor to rebuild your country rather than go and die for nothing? Why you just don't use these young people to rebuild your countries? Why you just don't do that? Of the war of Russia and Ukraine, I'm going to say again, it is absolutely inappropriate to fight for defense of your territory on your neighboring country. defend your boundaries from position of your land, from your country. You don't defend your boundaries by overstepping on other territories. That is not how you defend your country. That is how you attack another country. How you're going to explain to anyone that you're defending your country by completely getting on territories of foreign country, on territory of foreign country. You might have here some kind of army advancement, but you don't have legal and moral advancement. Something was going on in Ukraine that was anti-Russian. That is situation that you report to United Nations and become United Nations event. And then you straighten United Nations, invest all of the money that you're investing in army, invest in United Nations, create some kind of lobby within the United Nations and win that battle without wasting human lives and without material destruction. It is also a very bad example for any international situation where you have similar situation. You invite here foreign intervention on national territories. That for quite some time became also a situation in Kosovo, where you have international forces now interfering with completely national situation. That has not been resolved, first of all. And that international community is taking side without doing proper investigation of the entire situation and without understanding the situation in Serbia. They're taking side here. They're taking side with Muslim population, Albanian population in Kosovo, ignoring the fact that what is endangered is actually Serb population in Kosovo. And no one talk about that population is ghost, and everyone goes there to do the mining, of course. So nothing of that is military operation. It is operation about excavating the certain properties, should I say human dimension. Now, on that aspect, I'm going to say Russia is nothing short of any of these relevant of the dimension that should be relevant to concept of Russia and to what Russia is. Russia would not be short of it. Time that each of the territories reinvent themselves within their territorial identity without fear that they are not going to be good enough. I don't think that is the story of this planet on any of the territories. But by trying to run away, to run after someone else, you end up neglecting your own identity. You end up not building sufficiently your own identity. And that is another paradox. Value your own lands, and what you have on the lands is God-given. Value it. And here I'm not promoting religion. I just have heard today someone talking about Satanism and discussing some kind of methods how to deal with Satanism, and delivering here church as a event that is going to deal with Satanism. First of all, Satanism somehow withhold, I cannot ignore not noticing, withhold the word Satan, which is a reference to silk. And altogether that looks to me as a Phantom of the Opera protocol, very much. Then calling religions to assist which are not legal defined protocol. Religion is not legally defined protocol. It is more like adding oil to the fire. I would rather find religions developing in all of these times as devils themselves. Certainly we don't have their satellites or cameras in these buildings. We have absolutely no idea what kind of lifestyle these people have been leading in all this time. If someone is to discuss these dark affairs, I would not exclude church from any of it. But to find church being part of the solution in 21st century, that is at the start point, completely suspicious event. And such people I would qualify as not delivering useful discussion or enclosing useful discussion to our present attempt and inclination that we actually be much more strict about defining problems and be much more professional in the way how we are going to deal with them. We have to be less strictly political from some kind of wrongly taken political position, and less religiously biased from some obsolete religious positions, while dealing today with modern approaches to how we are going to deal with, how we are going to recognize the issues and how we are going to deal with the issues. That we now started to talk about cultural setting, about much more natural tribunal energies, and the fact that human existed in some kind of energetic platform, but also very much cultural. And we need today to deal with cultural settings on the territories. Let's get out of the institutions. Let's try to understand the nature and the human in the nature in much more natural terms, much more organic terms. And then we see where we are going to get with it. Also, properly identified authority on these matters is very important. Satanism, which withhold the word Satan and reference to woman, and then discussed from the religion of men, is not our subject of today, because it is going to bring us on territory men not tolerating woman. That is already homosexual protocol. And instead to discuss Satanism, you actually discuss your homosexually taken possessions, and your position of hating a woman. Expression for that, also very much absolutely not logical. I'm not going to use it. Homosexuals hate women. Now, I really don't know how can someone even call that a gender when it exists on the basis of hating someone, not tolerating someone. Isn't it not already symptomatic that we talk about some identity that exists in some kind of negative formation altogether? Because here I am promoting my excitement about the nature, my excitement about the life, giving birth, or the magic of life, and the magic of creation. And all of a sudden, someone constantly talking negative, and hatred and negativity, and pulling out all sorts of negative words here. I also wanted to say in this context, we don't need army. We need now police. And that is police that is going to be enough educated, intelligent, informed, that is going to exist on premises of being informed about the structure of the problem, and being there in service of investigating and solving the problems. We need, as a humanity, much more intelligent approach. And that has been also compromised, associated with some kind of picture of futuristic societies where there will be police used as some kind of robotized machinery that's going to usurp personal freedom. Excuse me, personal freedom does not grow on the trees. It will need to be defined and exist in the context of building societies. You don't build even a family on concept of personal freedom to begin with. You build societies on principles of behavior and conduct and comprehension. So the entire concept of this kind of negative definition of future societies continue to be used as some kind of phantom against us projecting proper vision of society, and recognizing that our organization will need to be much more intelligent and much more oriented on maintaining organization and order, rather than fighting into blood war and killing people, killing each other, which these kind of protagonists or anti-protagonists of future or organized society constantly ignore. They constantly ignore to discuss the war as event and armies as event. They don't like the police, but I can't hear them enough not liking army as well. It seems they prefer army over the police. Now, these kind of people cannot be called as relevant opinion providers or visionaries of our future societies, because they do not discuss in correct terms the concept of society itself. Therefore, I'm going to find much more logical that we switch from being internationally antagonized and focused on maintaining military personnel, rather to focused planetary perspective, managing, of course, territories and nations and national identities. That is rather cultural identities, with much more civil approach to respecting the regional fabric of the population and advancing in general terms, improving territorial functioning, interterritorial functioning, rather than blocking the trade, for example, on territories that naturally exist in all of the century as some kind of natural trade. I'm not going to say dependency, but very much factorizing on this kind of international trade in centuries and centuries. Today we have such artificial political measures of blocking the international trade and so on and so on. So these negative approaches will need to stop, for God's sake, and we need to implement here much more attention to building most proper approach to organized society. And yes, it cannot be. I call police and I want to inform them about this heavy international situation in which I found myself, and police is not equipped to answer to my call. Excuse me, we are not going to expect police in 21st century to exist on level of protecting the local bank or the local gas pump or the local diamond store. And we have armies. And then we have perfect society. No, we don't. And if all that sums into a human excavating older civilizations, well, we bring monarchy forward, because then we talk about concept of recognizing the human identity and concept of discussing human identity, which is not exactly government level of function, but certainly is not going to be business level of function either. However, I have not mentioned here monarchy as passive function, as a building that does not talk, but just is taking pictures for the latest magazines. I'm talking of monarchy that would exist on the level of functioning in the way how I deliver this work today. In that context, I'm going to add also, whenever I mention God, I actually make reference to creative aspect of our nature. That is a reference to creative energy. Clearly, one cannot start from the story of Redcap and end up in England without discussing Rome and events that surround the entire concept of Roman imperialism, on which I never discussed anything in more details. Probably, maybe it's because of the phenomenon when you are finding yourself in this kind of movement, you usually look ahead, and the body is with you. It is a phenomenon of consciousness that very often we take as it is, and usually we just continue. Somehow, because of the proximity of the territories, and because of the view I needed to take today, which is the world perspective, I automatically united the central, and usually I speak about central ancient plateau, in one category. And certainly a category that I would categorize as my heritage, either speaking of my properties, personal properties, or speaking of perspective I'm developing today being planetary. Here, geography usually works as the strongest strategic force that unites territories on the common ground of strategic interests. Talking about planetary perspective, I wouldn't speak about strategic interests, but I would assume the territories would recalibrate within such logic. That is the force of what prevails here, is the force of what prevails. I started immediately to talk about Tesla and Star Trek. That presumed Roman imperialism was already embodied within the protocol Star Trek. Now maybe we can talk about internal issues only. And the internal issue would be, for example, the uh, how we recalibrate on the heritage, for example, Cleopatra, Mark Antony, and Augustus Octavian, which is very much for me a reference to what became later on to present day some avalanche of ignition of movement of fraternity society, ending with some kind of imaginary land of Atlantis, where all of the citizens would be male and rather older. Now that is a brainwashing phenomenon, yet most of the people of the planet are actually buying it. But certainly would be in reference to Senate House of America, which already is more, as you're watching Benny Hill show in continuation. I'm really trying to be respectful here, and I would ask for credit for me trying to be respectful. For me, the entire concept of Atlanteans is Benny Hill version of America. Am I supposed to get serious and actually enclose more specific discussion on the entire matter as well? Well, I'm enclosing it in question, in the form of question. 2 millenniums of fraternity society on the planet? Excuse me? Can anyone defend that position or stay silent? And I already have the stage. That is me and Roman imperialism discussed as of now. Such politics, therefore, disrespect the planetary integrity and building of planetary integrity in concept of a flower, in a protocol flower. But it is very much basically representing a protocol of using some kind of goof or golf stick to play the ball, the central house, and being used therefore by extended territories that clearly find themselves within different political integrity. Now this will need to be now explained. How different and how far away can go on the one same planet the extended bloodlines or the peripheries in this case scenario of the actual imperial matrix. How far these territories can go on, and still we talk about relevance here. First of all, you cannot have relevance when you don't have matrix anymore, when you have ended up to declare yourself as a matrix, or to have no clue that you have already lost the planetary perspective and you have replaced it with some kind of local peripheral perspective. As a consequence, we have now the stronghold Australia and New Zealand rather than stronghold ancient Macedonia. Well, that will never be same, and as you can see, this is enormously different concept, capacity, consciousness, perspective taken, cultural setting, cultural value system, a relation to the rest of the region, to the rest of the territories. All of that has been lost. how you perceive the planet, how you regulate the planet, how you talk to the planet, how you feel about the planet, all of that has been lost. You cannot have the same sentiment while being somewhere in New Zealand, or somewhere in Canada, or somewhere in Siberia, or somewhere in Japan, or somewhere in Argentina. It is absurd that you are going to bring the same sentiment, same perspective, same perception of the regions. You have become different region. Your perspective are different. Your emotions, feelings, everything is different. And one have here a right to prevent something to exist of such significance and such importance for the planet, while building stronghold on their territories with not even nearby significance in the overall planetary functioning. In such way, as you can see, you have direct reduction of the planetary function, replaced by something that will never be a planetary function. As a result, our entire planet suffers, and the rest of the territories start to dry out. That is exactly what has happened on this planet. We do not talk here about ambitions of Australia, of New Zealand, Britannia, or whoever here, even. We talk on the fact that in a consequence, the rest of the planet starts to dry out. And that is what cannot be accepted on first account here. And of course, the legal ground being lost of how a matrix should function. It became too much adventurous and too much losing the authority here, the matrix function. The matrix function here has been lost. And of course, that is also happening under the jurisdiction and leadership of other tribunal subjects and identities that exist on different territories and have and continue to use this central plateau for some kind of cover-up operation of their own political agendas and their own political perspectives. And as a result, we get the world as it is today. Extremely polarized, extremely antagonized, and extremely dysfunctional and disconnected.